Alright, time to start putting this beast back together again. First part, fun, is going to be putting the power source back in. So, we'll place the screw in there and have to go get the screwdriver. And we're going to hope this works out well. All right. You're up there. Put you in right quick. That one can hold it fairly well on its own, but we won't make them do it for too long. This one in. Go. And the last one, and that'll be our power supply. Possibly one of the easiest things I've actually taken out of and put back on this machine. Next off, we will do the drives. Now, if you'll remember, the CD drive did not come out like it was supposed to. So, well, it's still there, just unscrewed. So we'll place it, make sure it's up to the front like it's supposed to be, and then we'll screw it back in. It's itty bitty little black screws. I will endeavor to not get my hands in the way of the video, but can't make any promises. Get out of there. Let's say on a whole, these are harder to get back in than they were to get out. Interesting method I found is that this little tweezer thing, or whatever it is, I can usually get them set in and take the rest of the way with a screwdriver. Just like that. So if you take these little tweezers here and grab the head of the screw like this, try there. You'll see that I can twist it in a little bit, let go of it, and let the screwdriver do the rest of the work. I find this little claw is quite handy for, well, just about everything. We're going to also, before we turn it around and put the other screws in, put the floppy disk drive back in. Make sure we're at the right hole. Put him right in there. And make sure that he is right up against where he is supposed to go, which he is. Lovely. So now already I have a couple more little black screws. We'll tighten them in. Beautiful, just like clockwork. While we're at it, we might as well put the hard drive back in. Sometimes it's better to consolidate and do all certain things at once. So now then, get Mr. Hard Drive in. You have to remember where he was, which was right about here, I believe. Put these screws in. I guess it's not able to see what I'm doing. Again, I apologize for camera quality. It's a good camera, I'm just not a great cameraman. Obviously another case where I'll need to, where my big fat fingers won't work and I'll need to use Mr. Claw. Perfect. I'll tighten this up here. Alright, zoom out. Now I'm going to move the case around. Well, when it comes to me, I'm still going to do this. When it comes to my mind, I just remembered that I had to move that hard drive to take the motherboard out. So I'm probably going to have to take it back out. But while we're back here, we will put the two disk drive screws in. No sense wasting a trip. Go. Get in there. That screwdriver will take care of that one. There we go. Beautiful. Two more left. You're not able to see what I'm doing, so I'll move it there. Try not to throw the screws everywhere. There we go, and to finish the job. Alright. Oops. Now get this up and around. Now we're going to take the hard drive out again because, as I stated, I needed to take that out to get the motherboard out. So it means I'm probably going to need to have it out to get the motherboard back in again. Always best to usually go exactly the opposite direction you went to get everything back in that you did to get everything out. Now then, let's clean up these cords. Get everybody out of the way. Go. There. There. Yeah, you too. There we go. Now what I found had happened to this little screw hole here, if I can show. This one right here. What had happened was that the spacer had come out instead of the screw when I tried to unscrew it. So I fixed it. I got that all taken off of there and fixed it back up. Sorry, I didn't document it. It wasn't very important. It wasn't very interesting. But that spacer's there, so the motherboard should sit right down beautifully and perfectly. Just the way we want her. So, I will now be gone for a second to grab the motherboard. Wish me luck, and I don't drop the damn thing. Now, being that I had to get it from a distance, I don't have my anti-static bracelet on, but I am touching the outer edge of the case, which should hopefully give me some measure of protection. Add to the fact that I'm not actually touching the... Give me a moment here. Sorry, you were just seeing nothing but arm there. These cords are being a nuisance, so I'll try to stuff them in this little corner here. And we'll try that again. Very gently. Very gently. Here we go, motherboard, you're almost home. Careful. Careful. And we are all seated. Beautiful. Now, for those of you with motion sickness, don't look at the next part. I'm going to move the camera around so we can see a little better. All you're seeing is my legs. Okay. Nothing too super interesting happening on this part, but I am going to put the hard drive back in before anything else. Get these cords out now. Set them over there. There we go. Okay, now then, got those in. Before I go any further past, oh yeah, I guess I'm talking but not showing what I'm doing. Go any further past, I'm going to put this anti-static bracelet back on so that nothing bad happens. As it stands, I should be perfectly fine as I have not actually touched any of the chips or boards especially the motherboard, since I started doing this. So, okay. And I figured out another problem. I put the hard drive in backwards. I was wondering why something looked wrong. Those of you watching, I am not quite this stupid. It doesn't come naturally. It's a gift. Gift of stupidity. There we go. Guess I could say this is how and how not to install a hard drive. Excuse me while I find a screw that I lost. There we go. For anybody other than my instructor who is watching this on YouTube, this is my first time doing this, so don't follow me to the T. You might want to follow people who are a little more, well, who've done it a few more times than I have. And who are not quite so clumsy as I am when it comes to screws, apparently. Doesn't want to quite agree. There we go. If nothing else, I've given proof that you can indeed put a hard drive in backwards. I wouldn't suggest it, considering that it doesn't really get you anywhere, but now you know. Alright. Next most important thing is to get the screws back down on the motherboard. Get out of the way, you. So, try to move your view there. I'm not going to try to zoom in too much for the screw shot on this. It's not exactly very interesting. I'll set all the screws with the claw. And yes, I understand that this is probably not the most interesting video on YouTube, once again, for people other than my instructor. But this was originally made for my instructor for my class, so yeah. I'm pretty sure you can live. I seem to be missing a screw. I'm just going to quickly go look for it. Here's another good little lesson. Always keep track of all the screws that you take out, because you will, well, of course, want to put them all back in again sooner or later. As it stands, what I'm about to do is not something you should probably do. I'm going to need a new screw. Now, being that I've tinkered around with a few dead computers before, I have a few leftover screws. I'll see if I have any that are motherboard sized, and I do. Fits like a charm. Now then, I'll screw all these back in. You don't want to tighten them too hard, or else you might crack the motherboard. So just snug, just as soon as it feels tight, nice, it just started to get nice and tight. What just happened is not something you want to happen very often. It did not land on anything undamageable, so it should be fine. For whatever you do, be very careful with your screwdriver, as I was not, but be more careful than that. You do not want to risk the screwdriver, the tip of it especially, scratching the surface of the motherboard, as that could pretty much screw up the whole thing. You'd try to scratch something that was seriously important, and then the motherboard would not work. Somewhere or another. Sure, it might turn on, but something along the way is going to be ruined. Alright, so we got that back on. Well, that was the most nerve-wracking part. Now for the fun part. Remembering where all the cords go. Luckily I drew myself a diagram, and it's always a good idea to have a diagram. Well, let's see. So we're going to... Yep, put all the cables back in. Oh, wait, the expansion card. The only expansion card this poor little machine has was an internet hookup. In this one white spot here, I'll try to zoom it. There we go. Never touch the chip side of these. You don't want to touch those, as that could damage any of the little metal bits as you see there, and it can basically make this card unusable. Now I get lucky because this one has a big old chunk of plastic on it, but in the cases of other cards, you want to be very careful. I'm placing it in. Put it in. As soon as it lands in, do not try to push it too far, or else you could break it. Screw here. I think I might be going at an angle. There we go. There we go. And it's in. The expansion card is now in. Now, to put all these fun little cords back in their places. They're just so much fun. Now this one is small. Is it the small black one? Yes. It goes down in this nifty little area. I'm going to have to zoom out, or else you won't see a thing I'm doing. Okay, you don't want to see that. That's me. Definitely a part of it I probably shouldn't show on for a show for Play Company. All that you'll have to plug these into are little pieces of metal poking up. So be very careful when pushing down on it, or else you will bend them, or even worse, break them. There we go. Alright, so the white one will go over here. Once again, little tines poking up, so therefore you have to be very careful with them. Now, if I remember correctly, there should have been a third one. Ah, there he is, hiding underneath here. Third one is this bugger right here, the long black plug. I know I'm not getting very technical. It's mostly because I do not remember what the names of these plugs are. I do remember that you need to be very, very careful with them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera again in hopes of giving myself some light and, to the viewers, a better picture. We're on and plugged in. Those are some of the nastier ones. Now then, first off, before we plug power cables in, we're going to want to put those ribbons back in. Also going to want to put in the SATA cord. This plugs into the hard drive. So we're going to want to plug it into one of the two little SATA ports on the motherboard, and then plug it into the back of the hard drive. Just like that. SATA is an ingenious idea, in my opinion. It just makes it so easy to plug everything in the back. Too bad everything can't be plugged in that way. But knowing how technology works, give it time. Alright. So we have one of our ribbons here. This one is for the floppy drive. Now, ribbons can be fun to put in. Just on the basis of they're very not as bendable as some other types of cords. There we go. Oh, no, no. Get in there, you. Plug it into the back of that floppy drive. Make sure it's snug on there. Good. Doing good so far. Now you probably see my foot, my legs and all that. This is because I don't really have a proper desk to do this on, so I do it on the floor. But it's a very clean floor, so we're all good. Now there is one of these ribbon slots that is blue, and as you can see, the head is blue, so that obviously means that you put those there. Thankfully, color coding makes a lot of things inside the computer easy. Not everything's color coded, but enough to be useful. There we go. And this one goes up to the CD drive. Alright, on we go. Okay. So on we go. Now the motherboard is mounted, we can put the CPU's cooling fan plug back into it. Now for the power. The biggest plug goes down into the motherboard, and there's a power plug for each of the drives. A little bitty one for the floppy drive. I guess it's not as powerful, therefore it doesn't need as big a power plug. Fair-sized one for the hard drive. Plug him in. I hope that I never have to do it again because that was not fun to get out. Alright, what are we missing? Okay. So, I do believe that is just about everything. All that's left is to put the case covers back on, and we're grinning. I'll take my anti-static bracelet off now. You can focus on me for a moment. I'll take my anti-static bracelet off. And we will move the computer box up and put its case sides back on. So, first this side. It's a little harder to get this guy back on. There we go. Get that snap. Now then, before we're grinding the whole side into dust, let's see. We have the other side. You seeing what I'm doing? Good. As you can see, it can be very hard to put this on the side, so I'll want to put it on when it's laying down. Gravity is your friend in this situation. There we go. And there we go. Now for the final touch. 4 big-headed screws, all meant for the back. I'll place them on top of the box so I can one at a time put them back on. I'm using the screwdriver only to tighten them at the final bit. I can mostly finger tighten this whole setup. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Or just gentlemen. If the only person that reads this, watches this is my teacher, then just gentlemen. We will now take the box over here. It's going to be the moment of truth. I'm going to hook this thing up to a monitor, or in this case, my TV, and we're going to see if it works. For those of you who have motion sickness, don't look at this next part. lesser note, I'll show myself hooking this up. We have a power cord hooked up. Nothing exploded, so that's a good sign. You see I have a monitor hookup cable, but this is double-ended so I can hook it into my TV. That up at the end. Now then, we are going to aim this right up at my television. Turn it on and hope for the best. Keep your fingers crossed. And power. Come on. Alright, so nothing's happening, which is usually not a good sign. So we'll turn them off. In this case, take the power cord out. Press the power button again to make sure there's no power going to the power supply. It means that I obviously missed plugging something in somewhere. That's not good. So, we're going to have a look. Alright, so, as you can tell, this whole video is done on the fly. I don't have a script. I'm just going with it. What happens, happens. So we'll take screws out this side. I don't think we'll need to take both sides off this time. Just this side. Pull the cover off. Put my anti-static wristband on because, well, once again, I don't want to fry something. And I think I see it now. What it is I missed. Down here is a power plug that I forgot to plug in. And that would be the one that goes from the power cord to the motherboard. Now, isn't that silly of me? I remember to plug everything else in, but except for the one and most important little bugger. Alright, well, that was fairly quick, painless. Let's stick this back together and get them working, because I got a good feeling about it this time. All right. Powered up. No explosion once again, so we're still in the clear. Plug in the TV, monitor, whatever. Alright, time for try number 2. Once again, I'll aim you up at my television, and we're going to hope for the best. And would you look at that? So far, so good. It's loading up Windows. And there we have it. I'd say that's fairly undisputable proof that, well, I can take this thing apart and put it back together. So, in short, barring a few mistakes, I do believe I was able to take this computer apart, put it back together. It was a bit of a gong show, but I was able to do it. Alright. Here's hoping for a good mark.